Hello and welcome along to the latest Forza Italian football podcast. I'm your host, Conor Clancy, back again, back in the run of things. And I have a panel with me again this week, but it's a different panel to that of last week. Joining me again for I don't know how many times in a row is Vito Doria. Vito, welcome along.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, really glad to be here. And of course, once again, another exciting round of Serie A. So looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big round, really. And also here to talk us through that round of fixtures, round 9, I think it was, is Luca Gunby. Luca, it's good to have you here again.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here. As Vito said, it was a good round in Italian football, and then it all seems to be coming thick and fast at the moment, and everything seems to be going quite nicely in the season, and there's lots to discuss.
Absolutely. I completely forgot this midweek round of games was coming up, and then I was watching the Atalanta game or something, and I heard the midweek round advertised, and I was shocked because it's getting difficult to keep up with it all at the moment. But speaking of things that were difficult to keep up with, I think there's only one place to start this weekend, and it wasn't with the biggest game. We're going to go to Friuli and Udinese 2, Juventus 6 in the end, despite me having my match report written and ready to submit when it was 4-2 in the last minute, which it's always nice when you get a couple of goals laid on that don't ruin the report. But anyway, Luca, we'll go to you first because you haven't been here all that often this season. But it's hard to even begin to analyse games like this because it was just complete chaos. What did you make of the game?
Well, yeah, it's just pretty much chaotic. You can't say that any style or anything's prevailed over anything else, and it was certainly a game where Juve looked to be in difficulty, going behind quite early on. Mandzukic getting sent off midway through the first half. It was probably not a terrible offence, but it was a bit stupid on his part. But then it was just a bizarre game where Juve, just really pulled through, coming through in the second half. Rugani played well. I think he was sort of seen as a performance from him where he really stepped up this year. He's always had a lot of expected of him in. It's not just come there. Khedira just pulling through, coming out with all those goals. And then I think in the end with those late goals, just came in case that Udinese lost their heads, having played so much of the game a man up and not being able to capitalise. But it was just a completely bizarre game where you think, oh, they're going to be in trouble for Juventus, and then they just won, and they somehow won by a 4-goal margin against 10 men. It was bizarre, and kudos to them for being able to do that when it was so difficult.
Yeah, Vito, this is exactly why Juventus keep winning Serie A, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. It's these type of games that you'd think in most cases the 11 men would triumph over the 10 men, but it was a game where Juventus really showed the quality against Udinese. Even with Mario Mandzukic being sent off, they surprisingly looked like a better team in the second half. I do want to continue with Luca's mentioning of Daniele Rugani, because he made an error for the first Udinese goal when he tried to pass to Mirolim Pjanic, and then Sergio Fofana intercepted the ball before Stipe Peric got the opener. But he redeemed himself in the second half by scoring with a header to make it 3-2, and he was involved with the fourth goal as his header went across the penalty area before Sami Khedira volleyed the ball home. So I'm really glad that Rugani is getting a chance, and it shows that, with the modern defenders around, they can contribute offensively, not just to being pure defenders.
One thing I thought about the Rugani performance was that he seems to have really embodied what Juventus are traditionally about, because, like you said, he had that early setback, but he didn't let it get to him. And if anything, it was the catalyst for his performance to improve. And from then on, he was brilliant. So while we're on Rugani, I hadn't planned on this, but Luca, do you think it's time that he becomes the first choice partner for Giorgio Chiellini?
Yeah, I think it's a point that's been mooted for a while, because obviously Juve had that BBC backline for so long, and it was probably the best defence around, so there's not much space for him. But it was always a defence which was aging, and then the main star of it in Bonucci's gone, and he's had his difficulties elsewhere. So you think, yeah, it's definitely up to Rugani now to step up and shine, because he sort of he's always been quite solid whenever he's gotten a chance, but he's never really been the main man at Juve. And I think with just kind of the situation at the club where they've kind of had it they've just been so consistent, and the team's always been very similar, where this is kind of the team, this may be the year when they struggle a bit, but even if they're struggling, it kind of also gives them a chance to rejuvenate the team. And I think he certainly showed again, he certainly showed it in Neze that it can be counted on when it's all going against him. He's made a mistake, but then he's recovered it. So he's certainly just got the kind of mental character to live up to playing at such a big club with pressure. And I think it's always he's always going to have had his chance, and it might as well be now, because they've not got that much depth elsewhere at the back.
I mean, the obvious story from this game was that Sami Khedira scored a hat-trick, but if you'll forgive me, I'm not really too interested in talking about Khedira, because, I mean, a midfielder scoring a hat-trick in a game where his side are down to 10 men kind of speaks for itself. One thing that really stood out for me was Gonzalo Higuain's performance. I know he didn't score, which is usually bread and butter for him, as he just scores goals, but I thought he was excellent. And it got me thinking that with Paulo Dybala looking like he's really taking his performances to another level this season, Vito, I'll send this one to you. Do you think that Gonzalo Higuain has the capabilities, because of his experience, because of where he's played in the past, I suppose the fact that he's Argentine as well could help? Do you think he has the capability of taking a step back in terms of scoring goals this season, accepting that Dybala is the main man in attack, and just kind of being there as a helping hand to him more than anything else?
On the basis of what I saw in the Udinese game, I think it is a possibility, but I would like to see more consistency from Higuain in this aspect. Judging from what we did see on the weekend, though, I did like that Higuain was able to drop back and help the defence, and especially when Juve went down to 10 men. And he was also chasing and pressing as well, which are things that you don't see from Higuain too often. So if Allegri has ingrained that into his game, or Higuain has been smart enough to acknowledge the circumstances that Juve were under after Mandzukic was sent off, I think that's very good for a player like Higuain. When he was at Napoli, Sarri's system suited him and he could score freely, but given the circumstances that Higuain's been under recently, and of course, as you mentioned, Dybala had a sensational start to the season, I think he's got to try and do the team things and perform these tactical roles so he can keep his spot in the team and also be a vital contributor, because in the modern game, there's more to just scoring goals for strikers. And the same with the defending, as I mentioned with Lugano, there's more to it than just defending. So, yeah, it works both ways now.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point to raise. I suppose Juventus beating Udinese isn't all that shocking. I know the circumstances dictate that it is a bit more of a surprise than it otherwise would be, but we're going to move on now to the weekend's biggest game, which was definitely at the Stadio San Paolo, where Napoli and Inter kind of cancelled each other out, really, and it was a 0-0 draw there. On the surface of it, it probably looks like a better result for Inter than it does Napoli, but when you consider that Napoli played Manchester City midweek, and their players were obviously going to be a bit fatigued from that, especially the way City have been playing this season. Who do you think will be happier with this result, Luca?
Yeah, I'd agree with what you said. It would be Inter. I think they were set up in a certain way to try and get a point, and they managed that. I thought it was a good game. It was an entertaining game, even if it was goalless. Like, obviously, people like to see goals, and whenever there's a high-scoring game in Serie A, you kind of see the people who follow it are quite happy, because it kind of casts off, misconceptions about the league. But I thought that was just two teams playing very well, and that was why there were no goals. There's two defences on form. Handanovic played very well. And yeah, it was just, I think Inter should be proud of how they played. They didn't just sit back though and not attempt to score at all. They did look to play on the break, and they all did their bit. And Icardi was dropping back. Normally, you just expect him to sit up in the box trying to get touches on goal and shoot on goal from in the penalty box. He doesn't tend to contribute much beyond that, but in that game he did. He was around everywhere, and I just thought it was quite interesting game. It was genuinely both teams playing well, and that was why no one scored, because no one made any mistakes. And perhaps Inter at the end could have hoped to sneak it when Napoli started to look like they were tiring after playing in Europe midweek. But in the end, the status quo is preserved, and I think they can both be happy at not remaining unbeaten so far this season.
Yeah, Luca, I'll stick with you. I saw this described on Twitter quite inaccurately, for me anyway, as Luciano Spalletti getting one over on Maurizio Sarri. I didn't see it as that at all, because you'd imagine Napoli won't be too displeased with a point against Inter.
No, he was a bit feisty after as well. Spalletti was speaking to the TV. He was sort of, I think someone had sort of given him a compliment, but he sort of is a bit of a backhanded compliment in that kind of suggestion that he'd sort of got one over Spalletti by just over Sarri, so by just sort of ruining the game somehow and not really attempting to get the points. But it wasn't like that. I think it was just two teams who did what they were asked to do, and everyone performed well, and that just meant that neither team could take it. I think he probably had a few slightly better chances, and Handanovic was decisive in those instances. But I don't think it was kind of the case that sort of this kind of pragmatic, negative Spalletti, the minister of the defence, as he was called by Sarri, just turned up to completely kill the game. Inter did try and hit Napoli on the break. They did try and attack when it was on, and it didn't work. But they did both give it a go, and that just led to a fair draw where neither team really made any mistakes, which just allowed for a goal.
Yeah, agreed. Vito, all things considered, Napoli should be happy with a point, shouldn't they? As we said, they played in Champions League. Inter aren't exactly an easy opposition at the moment, and they're still top, most importantly. So it's a good result for everyone.
A point is still better than a loss, obviously, but if I was Napoli, considering how they have dominated Serie A this season, it would still feel like a loss. What I do admire about Sarri is that he stuck to his guns, he stuck to his principles, and they tried to win the game. Whereas with Inter, you can tell that with Spalletti, it does look like he was playing a more conservative style of football, and that they were playing more just to stop Napoli from playing a game than for them to try and implement their own style. So I think Inter could have got some goals on the counter-attack, but really there were probably even a few moments that Napoli could have got a few more shots on target, despite the ones that they were landing on target were being saved by Samir Handanovic, who had a sensational game.
Yeah, I'll stick with you. Do you think that what was I going to ask? Yeah, will Napoli be concerned that they couldn't break this Inter side down, or is it just one of those that every once in a while you just kind of have to hold your hands up and say, okay, it's just one of those nights, it's not happening for us?
Yeah, I think with a style like that, you're going to get those type of games where you will try and play your game, try to attack the opposition, but regardless of what you do, the defense is going to be solid. They're going to be intercepting and tackling at a great rate. And of course, when you have a goalkeeper like Handanovic to face, he's going to make lots of incredible saves. So they're just those games that it doesn't matter what tactics you apply or what your philosophy is, you're going to have those odd games where you're going to be nullified. But, I just hope Sarri doesn't become disheartened by it. And I don't reckon he will, because he usually tries to attack the opposition regardless. He's not the type of coach that will just sit back even if he faces supposedly better opponents.
Yeah, you mentioned that everyone's going to be tackling and pressing a bit more than usual. Nicholas Carroll is currently whispering in my ear that Inter actually made 27 tackles in that game, which is just under 20% of their season total, which kind of shows just how hard they did work. They were pressing higher. They were really hassling Napoli. But Luca, where are we going? If I was thinking about this at the weekend, because someone said something, it was more of a throwaway comment than anything else, about with Napoli's squad, they should be really disappointed not to beat Inter. But given all that Inter have spent in recent seasons, and they do have some good players there, do you think if you were to just list their squad, player by player, man for man, Inter's squad might actually be a little bit stronger than Napoli's?
I don't know. It's quite a intriguing one because they are sort of the polar opposites. Where when you think of Napoli, you think of sort of Mertens and Insigne and Calhoun and that kind of attacking winger type player and all that kind of interchange. Whereas Inter don't really have that. It's just sort of Icardi, who's a top class striker, and he's probably a better out and out striker than what Napoli can provide. But he just he doesn't really do much else. Whereas they've got more Candreva, who tends to get quite a lot of stick in kind of the smaller games where he can't really dominate an opponent, really take a match by the scruff of the neck. But again, in big games, he can really put a shift in and contribute in multiple phases of play. So it's quite hard to say. I don't know. I think Napoli are kind of strong with just that kind of attacking fluidity where they can sort of really control a game and just destroy an opponent, blow away with players like Hamsik. I don't think Inter can do that, but I think in a game like that, perhaps, into that defence, that Skriniar and Miranda defensive partnership, and Handanovic in goal is better than what Napoli have. They are kind of, ideally you just sort of stick Inter's back line and goalkeeper on Napoli, and you've got some sort of freakishly good team, but it wouldn't really work like that. But I think overall, I'd probably say Napoli have a slightly better squad. And although I think they've also both developed as teams in a similar way in that this season they haven't really changed very much. Obviously, Inter have a new manager in Spalletti, but they didn't make all the big signings that someone like Milan did. It's kind of organic. It's got a bit of chemistry now, and that's kind of why it's coming together. But I think overall, Napoli, they have a bit more flair, they have a bit more skill. I think they're slightly ahead of Inter, more of a well-drilled unit.
Another stat being fed to me at the moment is one that might be interesting, it might not be. Just feel free to shut me down if it's not, but there's only one team in Serie A who haven't conceded a goal yet in the last 15 minutes of games, and it's not Napoli or Inter, it's Juventus, as you might expect, but Napoli and Inter have only conceded 2. So is this a sign that they are they're finally getting to that level where, I know we've all said they will probably win the Scudetto this year, they're definitely capable of it, but they're finally at that level now where they're not switching off at the back, their defense isn't as weak as in previous seasons, and they're kind of just a more complete team throughout from back to front. Luca, I'll stick with you because we're going to go to Vito for the next game.
So is that Napoli that they've got kind of a bit more of a winning edge?
It applies to both, so take your pick, Inter or Napoli.
Yeah, so I suppose with Napoli, you've got Koulibaly at the back, who's sort of been kind of regarded as a prospect for. When he first joined, he perhaps had a few mistakes in him, but that seems to have come out of his game. And yeah, I suppose against Inter, Napoli did kind of realise they were tiring at the end, so they perhaps weren't naive in trying to push forwards to get a dramatic late win, and they kind of realised that a point would be good enough. And I think with Inter, they're just kind of defensively strong enough that it's not necessarily so much of a mental thing for them. They're just kind of defensively strong for the full 90 minutes. It's not kind of that their issue is going to be them bottling games, if you're going to put it that way. I think they're kind of just rigid enough that they don't need to get nervous at the end. They're okay as it is.
Yeah, the live chat is kind of heating up at the moment. Jack's probably our most committed follower of this podcast. Stephen, you're there as well. Keep the questions coming, guys. I'm enjoying them. And Nick, it's good to see you are still with us in some way there. Vito, I said I'd come to you for the next game, and that game is Torino-Roma, which Roma won 1-0. Not really a surprise. I think the biggest surprise for me here was that it was 1-0 and that these two teams weren't involved in something like a 4-3 game, because we've seen Torino over the last 12, 13 months. Roma, I mean, their Champions League game kind of epitomized them. They can be exciting going forward, but not all that good at the back. But Kolarov got another big goal for them. Do you think he has the ability to immediately become one of the leaders in that team? I mean, he's won the Premier League before at Manchester City. He's kind of been around the block. He knows what he's doing. And he's in a Roma team, especially after losing Francesco Totti. They're kind of lacking in players that'll just grab the others and say, right, we're going to go win this game. Is Kolarov capable of doing that?
He's that type of player, and especially being over 30, I think he can be that leader. He's a tough player, and he also has previous Serie A experience, having played for Lazio, Roma's rivals, so I believe he can be that type of guy. One of Kolarov's greatest attributes is his free-kick taking ability. So, once again, he showed, with scoring the winning goal against Torino, that he can still whip them in. And after the game, I read a comment saying that Sinisa Mihajlovic, who's coaching Torino now, was one of his heroes and one of his inspirations. So it was a bit of an interesting twist there. Thought, a fellow Serbian and also a proven free kick taker in Serie A in the past. So a good motto to follow, and he even showed in front of his idol that he can do it pretty well himself.
Yeah, Eusebio Di Francesco. We spoke about him quite a lot. Me and Nick did a video about him throughout the summer. We've spoken about him in the early weeks of the season. Basically, we were a bit worried that A, he might not get off to the best start at Roma, and B, he might not be given the time to recover from that start. But he's proving everyone who doubted him wrong at the moment. And do you think this can continue, or I don't know, will Roma fall away as the season goes on? Vito, this is yours as well.
The way things have been panning out so far, Roma are currently 5th on the Serie A table, but of course, being just 9 rounds in, it's a very close battle for the Scudetto as well as the Champions League spots. And based on what I've seen so far, I still think Roma are the type of team that can stay in that hunt for a Champions League spot. I've mentioned it on a few of the previous podcasts that one of the main issues with Roma is they probably don't score enough in Serie A, but at least the chances are there. If they work on the shooting accuracy, the goals will come in, as illustrated in that 3-3 draw against Chelsea in the midweek game. So I think Di Francesco, he looks like the right man in charge, and I don't think the Romanisti or the Roma club directors have much to worry about at the moment. I'm sure they feel that Di Francesco is the right man in charge and the right man to guide this squad.
Okay, Luca, I'll bring you back in for this. It's not match specific, but another interesting statistic from, well, not the weekend, from the season so far, is 42% of Roma's attacks have been down the left, 25% through the middle, and 32% from the right, which kind of shows that they aren't so reliant on one creative position anymore, one player, as was kind of the case last season with Mohamed Salah. El Shaarawy has kind of done quite well. Perotti has always been quite consistent for them, and Kolarov is clearly having an impact down the left there. Do you think that in some sort of adverse way, selling Mo Salah is kind of helping bring out the best in the other players, or is that too big a leap to make?
I suppose maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration to say that they're just overperforming or performing to their best now that they're out of Salah's shadow. But it was kind of the thing with Roma that obviously they had Dzeko who scored goals, but still get criticised, even though he's doing well now. But that they had quite a lot of sort of different players, but they didn't really seem to always click. They always seem to sort of over rely on one in a way. But I think they do certainly have enough kind of attacking talent in those positions. Against Torino as well, it wasn't necessarily the most attacking side put out by Di Francesco. It was quite pragmatic in a way. I think you could essentially say that he had 4 central midfielders, because it was De Rossi, Strootman, Pellegrini, and I think Nainggolan was kind of in a sort of wider role. So I think they do have the personnel there to really kick on. I think the thing that I'm interested with for Roma's attack now is how that they can integrate Schick now that he should be fit, because he's a player that I really do enjoy, and I think he's got that kind of versatility that he can either play up front with Dzeko. He's probably a bit more technical than Dzeko. Dzeko could sort of be the one who kind of pins the centre backs back, while Schick sort of comes in from a deeper role. He can shoot from distance. He can dribble. He can get past people on the breaks. I think Schick, if he really lives up to his potential at Roma, could be a player who really could make a difference, because they've got all these sort of good players in Perotti who are sort of very, very solid, very good in attack, but they're not perhaps players that are going to get people out of their seats. But I think Schick, when he's really, really on form, could be that player, and he could be that kind of real star man in attack behind Dzeko.
Definitely. Dzeko isn't the only star man in attack in the city of Rome, because across the city, well, the other end of the Stadio Olimpico, is Ciro Immobile, and Vito, he was at it again. He scored 2 against Cagliari, and they won. Lazio, that is, won 3-0. Should we bother singing the praises of Immobile again this week, or will we leave that for another time?
I think the statistics speak for themselves. He's now got 13 goals in 9 rounds of Serie A action. So if you can average more than a goal a game in Serie A, you must be doing very well. And I also believe that with Immobile, after previous seasons where he had left Torino and had trouble outside of Italy, it looks like he's back to really redeeming himself and proving that he's a top striker. And I believe that, aside from us, I think more people should be praising him.
I'd agree with that. Our very own Kev P, who's currently having a great time in New York, wrote a piece about Immobile and how it is time for people around Europe and wherever to start taking him seriously, because he is genuinely a good striker now. And that was a few weeks back. So I might dig that out and tweet it out on my account, or the @Serie A FFC account maybe. But one thing that's really interesting about Lazio, and it kind of shows Immobile's importance and the other guys playing up top, is that they rank 10th in the number of total shots taken this season. But in terms of shots on target, they're 3rd. So that shows that they might not create as many as other teams, but when they do, they really make them count, which obviously is really important, and Immobile is playing a huge part in that. But another player who we haven't really spoken about this season, Luca, is Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. And he has just been a joy to watch this year. He's a strange kind of player that I guess, who could we compare him to? He's brilliantly physical, strong, big, powerful, but he's also, when he has the ball at his feet, he is wonderful to watch. He can pick a pass, he can beat a player, he can pull off a trick. How important is he to this Lazio team? And I guess, why is he being overlooked when people talk about how good they are?
Yeah, I think he established himself last year as a brilliant player. I think everyone in Italy has him in their fantasy football teams because he always chips in with a few heady goals. I don't know if you're looking for someone compared to perhaps Yaya Toure, and he's a sort of very big physical player, but he's also technically gifted. And he's just completely capable in everything he does as an all-round player. I think perhaps some of the reason why he's overlooked is that, for some bizarre reason, which must be to do with politics, is that he never gets in his national team. He's never been capped by Serbia. And when you look at it, you think he's probably their most talented player. But he's just such a good player in that Lazio team, where he's just really dominant in midfield and he can do everything. And I suppose another player in that Lazio side as well, who's also really been helping Immobile, is Luis Alberto, so deserves some credit. But I think Milinkovic-Savic is just, I mean, considering how young he is, and he just looks so good at everything he does. And you wouldn't want to play against him because he can just sort of bully you physically, get past, and then when he's got the ball at his feet, he doesn't really make many mistakes.
Yeah, I suppose it came to mind when you were talking there. He's kind of a bit like Paul Pogba, isn't he? And probably the closest thing in Serie A to Pogba since Pogba left. I can't think of many others who combine that physical, just power and dominance, and also being able to do the creative and the more aesthetically pleasing bits. But Cagliari, on the other end, I suppose no point in them getting too disheartened about a 3-0 loss away to Lazio, because there are teams who will go there and suffer worse defeats. But we haven't spoken about them too much this season. I kind of predicted them to finish mid-table. Vito, what do you think they should be aiming for this season? Because with the way the teams Benevento and Hellas Verona have started, they shouldn't be in too much bother in terms of fighting a relegation battle, should they?
I do expect Coyote to survive relegation, but I reckon now that being in the mid-table positions would be a big stretch for Coyote. Massimo Rastelli was the first coach sacked this season in Serie A, and they've brought back Diego Lopez, who was sacked 3 years ago by Coyote, so I found that very surprising. Rastelli played a far more attacking style than Lopez, but I suppose with the lack of defensive stability, that was going to eventually cost him. My concern is that they brought back Lopez, and I think that's a bad move because although he's conservative, but I don't think he really adds much as a coach. So I don't really believe that Coyote are going to do much with him. So they should just survive relegation and really, I think that's all there is to it. I can't expect Lopez to be a long-term solution or even develop a great coaching career out of it because the way Serie A is going now, there are a lot of coaches who have a distinctive style of play. So being a motivator or just being a guy who parks the bus, I don't think that's going to get you very far in the Serie A of today.
The next game will be a big one though as well. They've been on a poor run. They played some tough teams, but they also lost to Chievo and Sassuolo. But next game for them is Benevento again with newly appointed De Zerbi on the bench, and that'll be a game they certainly have to win because they can't really get complacent. They are at the moment right in the mix to that relegation battle. They don't have the sort of talismans of former years like Borriello, so there will be.
They're not actually in the relegation zone though.
Who? Calcio?
I was talking about Verona. I'm just trying to wind you up. Yeah, Benevento should be an easy win for them though.
New manager though, you never know.
They already got a -20 goal difference and no points after 9 games. I think they're in a bit of trouble this season. I think it's fair to say. I suppose we can't really go on for too much longer without talking about one of the stories of Serie A this year. But I think it's safe to say that we all thought they were going to be one of the stories of Serie A this year, but maybe not for being quite as bad as they have been. AC Milan, guys, it's just not happening for them. Leonardo Bonucci, on the night that he was named in the FIFA Pro 11 for the best team of 2017, he had a shocker, didn't he, Vito? What was he thinking getting sent off?
Well, I don't know what was running through Leonardo Bonucci's mind, but considering he elbowed a Genoa player, I wouldn't blame him one bit.
I saw you smirking there, and I was wondering where this was going.
Yeah. No, but with all seriousness, regardless of who you are, you shouldn't really be elbowing anyone. I mean, that's definitely a red card, and look, Bonucci can't complain about that. In any circumstance, regardless of who you are, an elbow is an elbow. So a deserved straight red for him, and that's very cool considering that he's the captain of the team now, and he should really be a lot smarter than that too. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how Milan go in the next couple of games without him.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the running order that I sent you guys earlier, and it's just, what is it, like Montella? When will they settle? What's wrong with them? And to be honest, I'm not bothered talking about Milan again this week because we have done them to death every week this season, and it's pretty much the same things because it's just the same problems. People blame on Montella, us kind of saying, oh, maybe he needs a bit more time. They've too many players, but I don't know. Luca, have you any fresh thoughts to add before we move on from Milan? Because they're draining me this year, to be honest.
Well, apparently Berlusconi's come out tonight and said that they've got some new financial problem that he's aware of. So might be another subplot in the Rossoneri circus as it rolls on. So
Silvio's going to make an emphatic comeback, is he?
I don't know. But either way, it's not going to really help stabilise them. I think it's just kind of, they've got this pressure on them with all the money spent and they're struggling to deal with it. And they've got, as you said, too many players. It's hard to fit them all into a team and create a cohesive unit.
Yeah, I'm happy to leave it at that on Milan this week because no doubt we discussed them a lot last week and we will again next. But let's have a break from them. Luca, Serie B is good this year, as always. What's going on down there?
Well, yeah, you keep seeing it sort of pop up now on Twitter. It's like, oh, everyone should be watching Serie B at the moment. That's because at the moment you have 9 points between top side Empoli and bottom side Cesena. It's all very, very close. I think in the round of fixtures just gone, Avellino were the only team to pick up their consecutive second win. Otherwise, no team had got 2 wins going into that round of fixture. It's just
Crazy.
It's just every team sort of wins one or it loses one. It's all over the place. And then you got Venezia as well going in the automatic promotion place in second, but they lost their last game. The American backed Venezia, so I think quite a lot of people around the world have a little bit of an interest with them. They're sort of celebrity Loy Rono, Joe Tecapino. It's just lots of attacking sides, quite a lot of young Italian players, and it's always just kind of worth keeping an eye on. I think Vito had some stuff about the sort of attacking-minded philosophy as well in Serie B with some of the coaches you got. I mean, you still got Zeman at Pescara, so it's always kind of...
Yeah, Luca, before you continue, Vito, that was a good piece that went up during the week. Do you want to basically give the listeners, viewers, however people are consuming this, the rundown and tell them where to go for that?
Obviously, you can go to the Forza Italian football website and read my article about the attacking coaches in Serie B now. It is a fairly longish page for Forza Italian football these days, but it does only give a brief explanation on the numerous attack-minded coaches in Serie B, and I think because of the ones that I've mentioned, Serie B is really worth watching this season. I mean, for all the old stereotypes out there about Serie A, Serie B, and Italian football in general being cautious and defensive, I mean, this season has really just blown them away. So, yeah, read the piece. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And there were probably a few other coaches that deserved a mention, but unfortunately I couldn't fit them all in. So, yeah, keep an eye on it because you should forget about the Championship, Bundesliga 2, Segunda Liga. The best second division in the world is Serie B. And the proof is in the pudding. Trust me. Broaden your horizons, people. Don't worry about the old stereotypes that the old English pundits and so forth listen to and try to brag about. Get in touch with 2017. Serie B is where it's at. And also, for the Australian audience, Fabio Grosso, Lucas Neal's old mate, he is working wonders at Bari. They won 4-2 on the weekend. So maybe if Lucas Neal wants a job, I think he should speak to good old Fabio. Maybe they can kiss and make up. And I'm telling you, Fabio, he is going places.
How has this happened? Right, Nicholas Carroll isn't even on, and we've had an Australian mention that. I'm not having this. Vito, if you do that again, you're off, right? That's the end of you. I can only accept Australian references when Nick Carroll is here because you can see them coming from a mile away. But, Luca, we're going to look to go to a Venezia game, I think, aren't we? Well, maybe a couple of Serie B games in December, so hopefully it's still really close then. I think it might have been last week on the podcast. It must have been because it wasn't on for a while before that. But Nick mentioned that he was plugging for Forza to do well, and I said, "Oh, they're not doing too well at the moment. They're 19th or something." And then we looked at the table, and they were 5 points off second. So where are they now?
Relegation playoffs space, I think, at the moment.
And where will one win take them? Up to about 9th or something?
Well, look, with one win, they would go potentially up to 10th.
Right, the playoffs.
They could meet Parma. They could go level on points with Parma.
That's what we want. We want Foggia, Venezia, and Parma to come up this season, just for no reason other than
Palermo, Bari. There's big clubs there.
Yeah, we've had enough of Palermo, but I've always had a bit of a soft spot for them for the fact that they wear pink. I'd like to see Bari up. That'd be interesting. But I don't know. Venezia really appeals to me because of where it is, that stadium, before they move out of there. I know you're not a fan, but you got to go to that stadium before they abandon it. Come on. It's amazing. Vito, we're coming to an end now. But yeah, if you're interested in keeping an eye on Serie B, do read Vito's piece. Let us know. Tweet me personally at Conor Clancy if you like, because I kind of more or less decide what we're talking about. So I'd like to keep an eye on it for the coming season. So if people want to listen to it, give us a shout. We might even do a bonus podcast on stuff. Let us know what you want to hear and we will give it to you, basically. Vito, you wanted to talk about Sampdoria beating Crotone 5-0.
Well, the good run keeps on continuing. After the loss to Udinese, that was the wake-up call of wake-up calls, and 2 wins in a row. But of course, this game 5-0. Yes, it was Crotone, but 5 goals in a game. Sampdoria showed great domination and fluidity, and then once again, this is what I call Doria style: domination of play, technical skill, attacking intent. This is the way Italian football's got to be. And really, uh, this goes to show that Sampdoria, based on what's been going on this season, they're really in the fight for the European spot. So more performances like this would be most appreciated. And my concern early in the season was they were only scoring just about 2 goals a game. But if you can score 3 like last week against Atalanta, now 5 against Crotone, this is the prolific scoring that we need to see in the league. And I also want to mention Ruben Zapata. He didn't score any goals, but he was involved in 2 goals. But it goes to show he's not just a tree trunk. For a tall guy, he's actually very mobile and showed some great work ethic. So I think he's another striker that Serie A fans should keep an eye out on.
Vito, you're getting a lot of love in the comments here. Jax and Nick are clearly big fans. I think that might be going back to when you were an advocate of violence, if it was towards people of Genoa. So you can explain that one when you get the chance, if you get called on it. Do you want to defend yourself?
Advocate of violence? No. The way I say it is defend the honor of the Doria family and always respect the Doria family. So any enemies of the Doria family, they must know their place. And Bonucci, he has no relevance or any, sentiment for Sampdoria or no connection to the club. Let's just say he did a good favour. I'm sure Doriani, deep in their hearts, they would be glad that he hurt some Genoani. It's
So
just like.
If things go really badly for Bonucci at Milan and he's on the scrap heap, you'll take him at Samp, I'm assuming, yeah?
Well, if he's willing to take a pay cut, I've got no issues with that. Just as long as if he does anything untoward towards a Genoa player, just save it for the last minute and make sure we're at least 2 or 3 goals up. So if we're down to 10, then you want to.
I think you've explained yourself better than I could have asked for, Vito. Right, we'll stick. We've got a bit of time to squeeze in a bit of Italy chat. Luca, Simone Zaza, he's got to be called up, doesn't he? What has he got? 5 or 8 goals in 5 games? Vito, was that the stat I sent you? 8 goals in his last 5 La Liga games. Valencia are second, I believe, in La Liga. And he is probably in the best form of his career. So he should not only be called up for Italy, but probably deserves to start. Luca, I'll bring you in.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, obviously you're waiting to see how Belotti does, and Immobile is also in the form of his life, so you'd expect him to start. But Zaza, I don't know, I think he got quite a lot of unfair treatment after the Euros, where for the most part he did well. It was just the fact that he did one silly run in a penalty against Germany, and then that kind of just tarred his name in relation to the national team for so long. But he's gone to Valencia. He's kind of refound himself after doing pretty much nothing in West Ham. But Valencia are doing really well. They're second in La Liga. He's scoring pretty much every week at the moment. He's certainly a player who should be, should be getting the call up. I mean, people always go on about Giovinco not getting a call up, but Giovinco plays in MLS, so that's kind of like it's fair enough. But Zaza's doing it in what's probably the best league in the world consistently. In a team who are second, and he's just shown that he's a really revitalised player. He seems to have found his confidence again, and he's showing why he wound up at Juventus. And even when he was at Juventus, he scored a goal against Napoli to win them the title. He's always been a good player. He's one of the best strikers Italy have. Same with Balotelli. There's more baggage with Balotelli, but that isn't really there with Zaza other than one stupid run up against Germany. I think just getting back in, it's a big game, and I think Ventura probably might find space on the team sheet for him or in the squad list.
Right, Vito, you're going to have to sit quiet for a minute because Luca has mentioned a couple of buzzwords there. Sebastian Giovinco is one of them. But yeah, first, Simone Zaza has always been a good striker. He was excellent at Sassuolo, went to Juventus, didn't get much of a look in. When he did play, he popped up with moments like that one against Napoli. Went to West Ham, who are a basket case of a club, didn't get a minute, and he seemed to be ridiculed on the basis of that because it followed that run-up in the Euros. And then he went to Valencia, who were an absolute shambles last year as well. And he did okay. I mean, you can't expect him to be competing for the Ballon d'Or, the Pichichi in La Liga if he's playing for Valencia. But this season he's doing it. And if he can sustain that, then fantastic, because the World Cup's coming up and we need Italian strikers to be in good form. Sebastian Giovinco, all right? He shouldn't be anywhere near the Italy squad. He has proven that he's not good enough when he played in Italy. He was given enough opportunities. He can't do it. He played enough times for Italy and never really impressed. He is tearing it up in MLS now, but I'm going to get a backlash for this if we have American listeners. But it's MLS. No one really cares. Josie Altidore is an excellent striker in MLS. He went 700 games or something in the Premier League without scoring for Sunderland. Josie Altidore is a terrible, terrible footballer, and he's doing really well by MLS standards. I was at a Toronto FC game last month, 3 weeks ago now. Giovinco wasn't playing, which was devastating because I went just to see him. I like Sebastian Giovinco as well, but he shouldn't be near the Italian squad. And the quality of football, I was at a game 3 years ago and it was way better than that, but it was still really bad. And I think it was, I don't even remember this, it was 4-2 to Toronto or something. Josie Altidore laboured around and scored a goal and made a mess of a shot and ended up being an assist. But yeah, no, Giovinco, Ventura should maybe consider him, but if he gets called up ahead, especially ahead of Zaza and Vito, as we discussed, Balotelli, I mean, that's just an absolute joke because he's playing in a league that doesn't matter, that isn't competitive. It's just not a good enough standard for him to then go and compete at international level. Like we see, I know it may be a bit of a jump, but we see, when Celtic traditionally play in the Champions League and they get spanked when they come up against a good team, it's because they're playing a terrible level every week, and then they come up against someone like Barcelona and get hit for 7. But yeah, does anyone agree or disagree on Giovinco? Should he be in the Italy squad? Right.
I think it's okay now, actually.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, no, all good. Yeah, I'll just quickly touch on Giovinco for a minute. Personally, I don't think he should be in the national team, and it's pretty much for the reasons you pointed out, Connor. He was at Juve, he flopped at Juve. The best form we saw when he was in Italy was at Empoli and Parma. If he was more humble, he should stay at a provincial club, be a big fish in a little pond, and stay in Italy. At least with Ciro Immobile, he's playing at these sort of smaller clubs. So, I think Immobile has made the smart choice to go back to Italy. Don't go to a big club because he didn't make it at Juve either. And he's performing well. Giovinco, he was money hungry. He's getting easy dollars at the MLS, scoring easy goals. So the quality really, it's not really ideal for international level football, especially a giant like Italy. So, go for Immobile, go for Zaza, go for Balotelli. And I haven't been impressed with Ventura, but I'm sure he won't be that absurd and that stupid to call up Giovinco.
Another Azzurri issue that is kind of concerning, if it's true, I'm not sure if it is true, but Jorginho apparently might play for Brazil because he hasn't been given a competitive cap by Italy. Is that right? He's played for them, but not competitively, which opens up the door for him to go back and represent Brazil. But Luca, you were quite keen to get some Jorginho discussion, so I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, he's been key in a Napoli team that plays some of the best football around, and he's still young. And large part of Ventura's kind of job with the Azzurri at the moment is to bring the age of the team down to get this new guy in. And he sort of did it a bit. He's brought in some other players. There's quite a lot of players who've made their debuts on him. But he's one of the best players around who could do that and fill that remit of being a debutant. And for him to just constantly be left out, it gets a lot of stick, and it is quite understandable. He should be playing. He should. I mean, even like because you have Brazil looking around, just give him a cap, even if it's just to like sod the Brazilians. But they've done that with Brian Cristante. Like Brian Cristante was linked with a Canadian call-up, and now he can't play for Canada because he played in the qualifier. So they've managed to tie down Brian Cristante, who presumably won't play again. But Jorginho is sort of like one of these kind of exceptional talents, and they keep sort of dallying around it. I don't understand it. I mean, obviously now you have these two playoffs with Sweden coming up, so that's not really the ideal occasion. You can't give him just 5 minutes or whatever to tie him down according to the FIFA regulations. But he's a good player, and he's surely going to be in that team sooner or later. So I just don't get why they keep waiting, leaving the door open to Brazil.
No, I completely agree. I'm not going to go in on that because I'll end up screaming. I'm still trying to calm down after talking about Sebastian Giovinco and Italy in the same breath. But we did get a question on Italy, so it's only right to do this. I did tell the guy we'd ask it. This is from Dan1901 on Twitter, and he asks, is there any possibility that Italy get past Sweden and then go on to replace Ventura? He thinks that it could only happen if Italy gets spanked in friendlies or something, but I don't know. What do you make of it? Luca, do you want to take this first and then I'll give it to Vito?
Can't see it happening at all, to be honest. They gave him a new contract ahead of the Spain qualifier. I don't know how much they'd have to pay to get rid of him, but I think all the voices coming out of the FIGC leadership are quite loyal to Ventura. They'll stick with him. Italy, obviously, if they don't get through, it's a different question. But if they do get through, that's job done. Italy never tend to really be particularly exciting, especially when it doesn't, in qualifying or in friendlies. That's never been their forte. They do it in the games that matter against the best teams. So I don't really see how anything can change ahead of the World Cup, barring Italy not going to the World Cup.
Agreed. Vito, anything to disagree with or take Luca up?
Assuming that Italy does qualify for the World Cup, the only way I can see Ventura getting sacked is as the gentleman who asked the question, is if he gets humiliated in friendlies. Italy aren't the team that take friendlies seriously, but Italy, they don't get thrashed in them either. So I remember before Euro 2016, Germany did beat the Azzurri 4-1, but in a way, it's expected because Italy don't give their all in the friendlies, and also Germany's a strong team too. So I don't think the federation would have been too disheartened by that result. So I can't picture Italy losing 5-0 or 6-0 in a huge bunch of friendlies. So I think, assuming the Azzurri qualify, Ventura will be coaching at the tournament. I cannot see him being replaced at the last minute because it's not something Italy does, to be honest, even if you look through the history.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that, but even still, if Italy got spanked 8-0 and 9-0 in the friendlies or whatever, I still can't see them getting rid of them because, like you said, they don't take friendlies seriously. So then the argument will be, we didn't take the friendly seriously anyway. It doesn't really matter. But I'm willing to stick with him and give him a little bit more time because Vito, we spoke about him a lot. I was quite happy with the work he was doing for the most part when he came in for the early qualifiers. He was giving new people a chance and all that. And it was just that Spain game where to play with two in midfield against Spain was jaw-droppingly stupid. And you could see before that game started that they were just going to get absolutely overrun. Luca's laughing because we've both discussed this. Luca doesn't think Italy were that bad against Spain, but I don't know. I just thought it was dreadful tactically more so than individual performances. But yeah, I think Ventura's there for a while. The players have apparently asked to go back to Conte's system, which would be interesting to see. It would improve things, I'm sure. And I don't know, guys. Anyone else with some final comments? Because I've just noticed how long we've been going on for, so we're going to wrap this up.
The only thing I'd say about that is, when it comes to facing Spain, in my opinion, there should be a unwritten law that Italy's got to use a back three against the Furia Roja, because in recent years, it's when Italy's used a back three that it's worked. It's easy to say that it suits Barzagli, Bonucci and Chiellini, but Italy has looked more competitive in that formation against the Spaniards than opposed to a back four, so that was just ridiculous. And Ventura, he loves his 4-2-4, but Italy hasn't got the central midfielders for that formation. And Parolo's a solid club player, but I've never been impressed with him with the Nazionale. So in midfield, there's just got to be more creativity. Even if Jorginho does play for his home country, Brazil, we've got to rely on more than just workhorses in the Nazionale. Italy's got to allow the creativity to flourish. And okay, you need midfielders that have that stamina and energy, but do prioritise the technically gifted players a bit more, because they're the ones that are going to produce the fluidity and keep the play going. I mean, you can't just have ball winners in midfield, and not just Ventura, but Italian coaches in general. They just got to learn from that and accept the reality.
Yeah, I think the three at the back thing is suited not only to the players they have now, but the players that will be there in 2 years. Matteo Caldara plays in a back three every week with Atalanta, and he's fantastic. Rugani is used to it from whenever he played there with Juve. I know they don't always do that now. If you're looking at the wing backs, then Andrea Conti is surely going to be the right wing back for the years coming. He plays as a right wing back. Go on.
No, I was saying definitely. I agree. Yeah, Conte, Leonardo Spinazzola.
Exactly.
They played at Atalanta. So yeah, a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3 definitely suits the youngsters coming through.
Yeah, so no arguments really. If he doesn't go with a 3-5-2 or something similar, I don't know, in the next game, well then I'll sharpen my knives and pitchforks, and I'm coming for him as well, guys. He can join Javinko in that queue. Vito, me and you can show up at Ventura's door. I'm sure he'll just tell us to piss off, probably. But all right, Vito, tell people where they can find you and read your stuff and all of that, because we're done.
Okay. Yep. Follow my fan page at Vito Doria. Go on to Twitter. My handle's at Vito C Doria. So yeah, check me out on social media, and of course, ForzaItalianFootball.com. That's where my articles are, and keep watching the podcasts.
Luca, where are you?
Mm.
You've done a Nick job. You forgot to unmute.
Sorry, just head's gone. Getting complacent towards the end. At Gunby Zone on Twitter.
There we go. I'm at Conor Clancy on Twitter and Instagram, and then I have a Facebook page. Just look up my name and you'll find it. We are on Twitter at Serie A FFC. We are on Facebook at Forza Italian Football. Patreon, if you like what we do, head over there. Give us $1 or $2 a month. We will love you for it. And yeah, like I said, I'm really interested in giving people exactly what they want us to talk about, really. So do get in touch with me on Twitter, message us on Twitter, whatever, and let us know what stuff you want us to talk more about, what stuff you want us to talk less about, and then ideas for like bonus content in the week with the extra podcasts. You've seen Dov doing things. Let us know if there are specific topics that you want covered, and we will do it. Thank you to Jax, Stephen, everyone else in the comments. A few people popped up there. Nick, thanks for being my stats man. And yeah, we'll be back again next week. So maybe after the midweek round, we'll see what we can do there, I promise. So other than that, there's nothing for me to say other than ciao for now.